Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Love, Sex, and Leadership. I'm very grateful to have a dear friend and fellow colleague in this wide world of Tantra and transformational work. My friend Dharmaraj, who he and I will actually be teaching a men's initiation journey coming up in a couple of months. We've known each other for many years, and he's a fellow tantric man on this journey of helping people around the world. I'm very grateful for his presence in my life. Welcome to the show, Dharmaraj.
Happy to be here, Aaron. Thanks for inviting me, and very excited to be here.
Yeah. So those of you who don't know Dharmaraj and maybe want to find out a little bit about him, he came into my life, gosh, probably 7, 8 years ago, and my experience of him was just this very intensely loving, passionate being that was so like deeply dove into this field of tantra, and that's my experience of him in my day-to-day life. And we've been friends now for many years, and yeah, I'd love for you to just start. I know your former path is as a dentist, and how you've gone from being a dentist into teaching tantra. A lot of people listening are kind of finding their transitions in life, and I think your story would be inspiring that side.
Great. So starting in university, I'm from the U.S. I went to school in University of Illinois, and starting from university, I was on the medical path, going towards dentistry, and also I was studying human sexuality and anatomy, physiology. This is all very biology of reproduction. This is all super interesting for me, and that was when I first got exposed to Tantra massage. So before any other aspects of Tantra, relational Tantra or the sexuality or meditation, it was really very much about the massage piece, the bodywork piece. So I met Charles Muir, my first kind of Tantra teacher or Tantra massage teacher. So while I was studying to become a dentist, I was also training to be a Tantra massage therapist. And of course, those two paths can never meet in the US, where Tantra massage is considered prostitution and illegal. So then I took on, of course, a pseudonym, which now is I don't even use my given birth name anymore. Now I'm only going by Dharmaraj. It's only the government and my parents call me something else, right? So I trained to become a Tantra massage practitioner and then Tantra massage teacher. And then I went to dental school, became a biological holistic dentist. And then in 2015, my life changed drastically when I met, as you know, Aaron, Ma'ananda Sarita, great Tantra master, who took me under her wing, and also we became partners. We went into relationship for 4.5 years, and basically I knew from that point that dentistry was no longer my path. I couldn't live this dual life of Tantra massage therapy and being a dentist. So I actually mostly dropped both and went into more Tantra facilitation and teaching Tantra meditation and different Tantric practices. And went a little bit away from the Tantra massage aspect, which I still give those sessions professionally from time to time, but that's not the core of what I do. So since 2015, as faculty and then lead faculty in Tantra Essence School with the Sarita. So this is what brings me joy, teaching Tantra, especially Tantra transformation group for singles and also for couples, and also teaching men's work with you, Aaron, the men's initiation journey. So these are the things that bring me joy right now.
Yeah, beautiful. I can celebrate your journey and coming more into your true essence. I think a question that I have, and it's a question I get a lot, and I'd love to hear your perspective on it, is in this field of Tantra, especially you could say Neo-Tantra or different kind of derivatives from Osho and that lineage. How do you describe to someone kind of the differentiation between these, kind of ancient Tantric scripts that, of course, deal with aspects of sexuality, and what a lot of the main humanity and people look at Tantra is just all about sex, and how where does that come in? Like, where does the scripts and the ancient texts of Tantra really begin to meet your work and this work? I'm curious your answer, because it's something that comes across my desk quite often as well.
Sure, sure. There's many different angles I could approach on this, and so my training with Sarita is through the Osho lineage, and Osho is a great tantra master. But he kind of coined the term neo tantra because he kind of brought tantra to the awareness of the West in the 1970s. But we really trace back the roots of tantra, and kind of why it got this kind of name of cult of sex, because it's really misunderstood and mislabeled, and this word has really become corrupted and perverted. There's plenty of people out there teaching tantra that, in my opinion, is not at all anything to do with tantra. It doesn't mean that it's wrong or bad, but it's just simply just not tantra at all. So why tantra kind of got this label, we could really trace it back to Victorian England. And as Americans, we blame the English for a lot, right? But so they colonized, took over, raped and pillaged, whatever, took over India. And then the scholars, the Victorian age scholars, started to translate the ancient tantric scriptures, right, that they found. So they translated from Sanskrit to English. And the oldest scripture that they managed to find was the Vigyan Bhairav Tantra at that time. So that was more than 5,000 years old tantric scripture, which is Lord Shiva having a conversation with his consort Parvati about every aspect of the human experience. Because ultimately, Tantra is about every aspect of the human experience, including sexuality. So about life and love and communication and the senses and the chakras and our Kundalini energy and like everything that has to do with our human experience. And in this scripture, there is 112 sutras, which are methods of meditation. So one of the definitions of Tantra, the word Tantra, is methods of meditation. So these 112 methods of meditation, very powerful, like even the Vipassana of Buddha is one of these methods, right? And then 112 methods of meditation, and 6 are sexual meditations that you would do with your partner in the bedroom through intercourse, right? 6 out of 112, that's like 5%. So these scholars translating are coming from a prudish Victorian age society where they have to, cover the table with the tablecloth, cover the legs of the table because the legs were way too sexual, right? And all the women had to wear dresses all the way down to their feet. So this is a culture that's so suppressed sexually, like, oh my God, sexual rituals. So 5 or 6 out of 112, this is the cult of sex. They must be all about sex. Okay, it's 5%. Just like, there's so many aspects of the human experience, and sex is an important part of it, but one could make the argument that it's 5% of the human experience. For some people, it's more than that, obviously. But it's not the totality of what Tantra is, not the totality of the human experience. But since then, Tantra's kind of got this reputation of being the cult of sex. And plus, in our very much, in my opinion, sex negative in a lot of ways, sexual culture, or through religions that are sex negative, then like anything to do with sex is like, oh my God. And this using Tantra as a buzzword because it's ancient and it's like spiritual and we can use this word, and now what we're presenting is more conscious than just an orgy or a sex party. No, it's a tantric temple night. So, but potentially the same thing dressed up as something else. I know that you and I both lead temple nights that are not orgies, that are actually really sacred and really kind of honoring this ancient spirit of the sacredness of sexuality. But this perversion of the word, and like I said, this Osho kind of lineage that I come from through Sarita, through Osho. She was 26 years in Osho's community, 17 years by his side before he started the ashram to after he died. So literally she was always there with Osho, absorbing his transmission, and then I absorbed from her. So this is kind of this is Neo-Tantra as Osho labeled it. And then after Osho came, for example, Charles Muir, my teacher in the US, who's now in his 80s. I have so much respect and gratitude for him. And he brought Tantra in the US through Tantra massage and kind of goddess worship in the early 80s. And then that became kind of like a new age Tantra, where there was a lot of focus on the chakras and the colors of the chakras and breathing together and sharing the energy of the heart and this kind of thing, which is part of Tantra as well. But, you know, the ancient view of Tantra is way more broad than any of these categories that we might subscribe to. And then when we get closer to the late 90s, 2000s, it seemed like, at least wherever I looked, that Tantra, especially in the US, was really focused on sexual sovereignty and orgies, polyamory, BDSM, and kink. Like, nothing wrong with those things if in the right context with integrity. All those things can be super beautiful. It's not Tantra from my perspective, because if it doesn't include love, the feminine principle, and meditation and witnessing, the masculine principle, and the merging of these two opposites, then it's not Tantra. So there's plenty of things out there that are sacred sexuality without meditation. I wouldn't consider that Tantra at all. So anyone out there who's looking at Tantra schools, for example, I would, my opinion, first ask, like, what is the lineage? Where is this coming from? And is it based in love? And is it based in meditation? And if it's not, and is it based in like full presence and honoring the totality of the human experience, including our sexuality? And if it's not those things, it's not Tantra. And as I said before, it doesn't mean that that thing, whatever it is inherently wrong or bad. That could be a beautiful and healing and amazing thing, but it's just not Tantra. So I'm kind of sick and tired of people calling their shit Tantra when it's really not.
Yeah, totally fair enough.
Something's going on with your sound, Aaron.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. So, sorry. Yeah, totally fair enough. You know, I think there's been a tremendous amount of misunderstanding around it, and you know, part of the reason that I'm having these conversations with individuals as yourself, and part of the reason I started this podcast, was to really have more conscious conversations around love, around sex, around leadership, around meditation, around how people can actually learn more grounded tools. And it's not just these esoteric concepts, but actually ways to make an embodied difference in their day-to-day life. And, you know, and experiencing and knowing you through the years, it's really, you know, what I've experienced in your being. And I think this misunderstanding of Tantra that's quite widespread, unfortunately, puts a bit of a bad name. You know, I found myself for many years not wanting to teach Tantra and not wanting to even have that label, because the moment, you know, you show up in the world as a male Tantra teacher, it's like, oh, you're this way, you're that way. And I haven't even opened my mouth and said hello. So all of the thoughts and projections and the beliefs get quite strong. And I also recognize, I'm sure similar to you, that there's a place of creating a healthy framework of what Tantra can be in someone's life. And, you know, especially when it comes around Tantric sex and, you know, this kind of theme of what we're talking about here. And, you know, I guess a question to lean into, especially, you know, both of us being male bodies and working with a lot of men through the years, and, you know, finding men who often kind of just want to find Tantra, maybe to be better in the bedroom, and, you know, want to find ejaculation control or semen mastery or all these different pieces. And yeah, I'm curious, like, what your thoughts are, or support can be for men who are just kind of stepping into this path and wanting to find their way into this tantric journey, into this sexual journey, into really discovering themselves more. You know, what does that look like, you know, from your framework, and how do you see men can really open themselves into this field more?
Yeah, great question, Aaron. I want to start a little bit with my personal story, my personal journey, like with my father being my male main kind of influence or role model. And he was, you know, very loving and at the same time quite abusive physically and emotionally. And I kind of got this transmission that men are abusive and aggressive and angry, and I just want nothing to do with men, right? That this just man equals bad. And the society also kind of echoes this, right? Like, especially nowadays, like everyone's a toxic man, toxic masculinity, all this. And I really believed that for many, many years, decades. And it was really until I found this tantric community of loving, conscious men, and you being, one of the leaders of that community, Aaron, and realizing that that's entirely just a story based on my own childhood trauma, and it wasn't true. And there's so many loving, conscious men out there, and tapping into that community was one of the highlights for me when I started getting into this field of men's work, men who come together and love and support each other. And when I grew up in the US, there was a lot of like fear of being gay and all this, like, oh, if you hug a man, you have any kind of intimacy with a man, like you're so gay. And there's like this fear, this homophobia, this fear of being a man that's just like freezes you from even hugging a man. You don't want to be considered gay by the other kids in the class or whatever. And, any kind of fear like this really, keeps us from freedom, keeps us from being liberated beings, from who we are. So through men's work, like really having like non-sexual, like touch and hug and massage and intimacy with men, like sharing love with another man doesn't make you gay. It just makes you a loving being. And it's such a beautiful journey. It's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about this, is to help liberate men from this kind of pervasive homophobia that anytime you like hug or you hold the hand of a man or you have any kind of physical touch or interaction, intimacy, even emotional intimacy with a man, you love another man, then that makes you gay, and you have to stop that. Like, it's totally ridiculous. So I love this supporting men come into their freedom. So that's one of the things. And I feel like that even precedes the sexual mastery piece, because how, first liberating yourself, freeing yourself from homophobia, freeing yourself from sexual shame and inhibition, being able to love your own body, self-pleasure and all this. And then we can really talk about semen retention, sexual mastery, giving your woman or man or whatever, your partner, like the time of their life through being in your sexual mastery. Like there's a lot before that. So a lot of men come to, get a men's coach such as me or you, and they're like, oh, I really want to last longer. I want to cure my premature ejaculation. I want to have the best sex ever. It's like, yeah, definitely will help you with that. And there's a lot of shit that you need to do before that. You got to take care of expressing your emotions. You got to do the deep inner work, your childhood work, your mother and father wounds, your homophobia shit. Like, there's so much there. So it's a wide field when we work with men, and it's really exciting work.
Mm. Yeah, I love this. And what I really hear you saying is that for men to be more masterful in the bedroom, it's really about finding their own inner liberation inside. And that's obviously one of the reasons I'm passionate in this work. And the place of a man actually beginning to become free inside, meanings confronting a lot of their deeper dark shadows. And I came from a similar US background. I can definitely relate, the level of homophobia and fear and all of that that's so deeply programmed. And even for myself, I remember just to hold the hand of another man was like, whoa, what does that mean? It means you're holding the hand of another man. And so many pieces inside of that. And one of the things that of course we both witness in these men's initiations and retreats is just this deep level of brotherhood that forms, that has nothing to do around sexuality, but is actually deep intimacy. It's like this intimacy between men when they can just let all of their fears and all the trust that they often don't have for other men. And that's something, I'd love to even dive deeper for you, because I know you've had your own journey with your father, and all of the pieces of that, like men that really don't trust other men. It's not something that we often talk about. It's like men just push things aside or they might get into a fight. But this deep rooted place that I think is in the male psyche that feels, I can't trust a man. A man's going to take advantage of women. He's going to rape. He's going to destroy. He's going to pillage. He's going to do all these things in the world. And I think so much of it has to do with like healing the father wound. And I know you've had a big journey with that. I'd love to hear more of like, how has that been for you to like have this deep level of frustration at times? I know I've had a lot of frustration towards my own father, but to move through it in a way towards what's the resolution, like what's the place where a man listening who still is like, yeah, my father's a douchebag, like how does he get beyond that, like how does he move to a place to actually have loving acceptance for the father that brought him in this world?
Yeah, and that can be challenging. It's challenging for me in that journey as well, coming to that space of forgiveness and love, and just kind of realizing that he's a product of his generation and his culture, of product of also the American influence and also the Chinese influence where he came from and how his parents raised him, and the society and religion for many people. And it's nothing personal, and he did the best that he could. And I have tremendous gratitude. He came from abroad with like $100 in his pocket, which got stolen at the airport. So he literally had zero. Like it really, and gave me all the opportunity for education, for living in a safe country and escaping communism and all this. And I have tremendous gratitude for that. And I did a lot of work around this father wound, and I did primal childhood deconditioning. I did color light therapy, prenatal series. I did what is it called, Hoffman Institute process. I did many tantric processes, men's groups, Mankind Project. Like all these things were supportive to healing my father wound. And the very interesting thing is that when I did the work myself and healed myself, and then I would meet my father, it was as if he equally did the work, even though he did nothing. He just continued to live his life the way that he lived it. But it was like the healing happened for both of us. And now I can visit him. We can have a great time. We can, honor each other's choices in life, and we can, have that love for each other. And yes, the forgiveness. There were things that he could have done better, but I'm very happy of where I am in my life now. And maybe if he would have done something, maybe if he didn't beat me, then I would have had a very different experience of life. Maybe I would have ended up as a doctor in some boring American hospital, and I wouldn't be a tantra teacher right now if I didn't have the suffering or the challenges or the abuse or whatever it was. It made me who I am. So, and I also firmly believe that, everyone will have a different worldview or opinion or belief on this, but I really believe that we choose our parents. That's what I believe. I believe that I chose my parents to have the experience that I had, which includes him beating me or whatever it was. So to make me who I am today, for me to have the experience that I have, for me to show up here as a leader of men teaching men's groups and as a Tantra facilitator in one of the world's leading schools, that, my father was a big part of that. And as much as I received some negative imprint from him, he also imprinted in me many positive things as well. And, through the men's retreats that we teach, Aaron, it's like every time we ask the men, who here has like a very positive male role model, very few hands are being raised, like whose father was like really an ideal father, treated you well, and very few hands get raised in this situation. So it's pretty wide, it's very widespread that we don't have these proper male role models in life. And many fathers are douchebags, I guess, and many of them are doing the best that they can based on their circumstances and based on their own traumas. So Yeah, that's been my journey. I've done a lot of work, probably more than most people will do about it. But even coming to men's initiation journey, like so much will be healed around the father wound. So much will be re-imprinted about a healthy relationship with the masculine and within yourself and the external masculine. So, you know, my journey with this was significant, from thinking all men were abusers and that the penis is just a weapon that is used to hurt women. I literally energetically castrated myself as a teenager, like hitting puberty and like, oh no, now my dick's getting hard and I can use this to like hurt women just like my father or just like other asshole men. I literally, like, it's like the bottom half of my body didn't exist, and I became like the neutered best friend to the women that was not a sexual threat, and then wondering, why is no woman desiring me? Like, I did this to myself to protect them, actually. But that's not what any woman wants, actually, a neutered
Yeah,
man.
no, exactly. So really what I hear you sharing about your father is that you went through a tremendous journey of forgiveness, of actually
Absolutely.
like coming into and saying, wow, thank you. I wouldn't have wanted any other father because it's made me the man that you are today. And yeah, I just want to honor and celebrate that. And I've had a, you know, very similar journey with my own father, and, you know, at times being like, you know, I think the words that I always wanted my father to say was just like, I've got this, you know, like, can I actually let go a little bit and trust in, you know, my father? And, you know, he did other things great, you know, a lot of love and respect and appreciation, but just this place of like being able to get things done. And, you know, I know for yourself with, you know, the physical abuse, and finding men that come into this path that have had that physical abuse from their own father, and just how much of a deep wound that can leave, and witnessing, you know, your own journey through the years, and actually coming into recognizing the gift of that, and the recognition to, of course, not want to, you know, abuse that power. So then cutting off your balls and cutting everything off and saying, I'm never going to be that way, because men that use that are terrible. And unfortunately, I think that's where so many men almost go wrong, is they have this feeling of like walking on eggshells. Well, society wants me to be really strong and powerful, but and then there's a Me Too movement that says don't be too strong and don't do too much. And so it's this constant feeling. So almost the easier way, and like even a lot of spiritual traditions, the easier way is just like having an ascension journey out of sexuality, because so much of sexuality for men gets condemned and gets blamed and shamed and pushed down. And so this place of like really, you know, maybe you'd call it like the dark masculine, or like really a man owning his dark power in the bedroom and in life. And this is really where I find this conversation so sexy and intriguing, because to me this is where leadership comes in. This is where like a man who's powerful in the bedroom and masterful with tantric sex actually is a more leader, not because he's overarching and super strong and assertive. Of course, that's necessary, but he also has a capacity to receive information, to have receptivity. And I'd love to hear like you know, you mentioned earlier with polarity and tantra, and how you feel like this place of both leadership, of a strong leader that is assertive and confident and clear, and how does his receptivity apply into that leadership, because that's clearly what a man needs to be a good tantric lover. So where does that correlate to leadership?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So as far as a masculine leadership and being an integrated man and a tantric man, it's really merging the feminine and masculine inside of ourselves and finding the strength in both. So on one hand, like just this like aggressive kind of powerful strength, like that alone is not the full picture of an integrated and an effective leader. We also need the feminine side of the receptivity, of the vulnerability. And to be able to be receptive and vulnerable, that takes an incredible amount of strength and courage to be receptive and to be vulnerable. And however, to be only one and not the other, only the hard ass strong ruler without the receptivity, well, that can lead to oppression and aggression and violence and whatever. And if we don't have, and if we're we're only receptive, we're only in our soft feminine, and we don't have that solidity in our leadership, that also doesn't have the structure that's needed to get things done. So really, Tantra, another definition of the word Tantra in Sanskrit, because in Sanskrit, every word has multiple definitions. And another definition is to weave. So Tantra is also weaving masculine and feminine energies, weaving the strength and vulnerability and the strength and receptivity for integration. So it's kind of acknowledging that we come from oneness. However, we're playing in this three-dimensional world that has duality, and it's simply just a game. And so this play of opposites is very much the human experience, very much the tantric experience is merging this receptivity and the strength. So to have both, then you are the benevolent king, then you are the integrated masculine, then you are the true masters that can really create a better world of this merging of feminine and masculine. So this is where where things are lost, where a lot of, for example, women are they're cutting the balls of their men, right? It's like we have to fight the patriarchy. We have to prevent the masculine from oppressing and abusing us. We need to denigrate them. We need to take them down a notch, emasculate. That's the word I was looking for. So there's a whole emasculation happening, and almost a celebration of weak men in the Western world, and then there's a whole generation, I guess, of single mothers telling their boys, like raising their boys without a father, and then it's like telling, don't be like your father, he's an asshole, men are assholes, don't be like him. Well, we are men, right? Like, so then to hate ourselves simply for the way that we were born. And so it's really, you know, we talk a lot about the struggles of the feminine, the struggles of women, and that's very much warranted, like the challenges that women have. And we don't speak enough about the challenges of men. Like, we don't speak enough about our challenges, our vulnerabilities. And it's not easy to be a man in today's world. Like the amount of expectation that's put on us, and you have to provide, and you can't show your emotions, and then no, but you also can't be too strong, so then you have to be weak. And you know, it's a lot of mixed messages, and like, what does it even mean to be a man, and who can we look up to as a male role model? And it's like, you know, Joe Biden's not our role model, and neither is Trump. So it's like, who in leadership can we really look up to really be an example of an integrated man who's integrated their masculine and feminine? Yeah, so even I think these tantric circles are the best way to get an imprint of really the healthy masculine, I must say.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree a lot of that. And I guess it's like, what I see is in the mainstream world, you know, the leaders that men do have aren't necessarily so integrated, and then they look at, you know, transformational coaches or tantric coaches and other people, and sometimes even with that there's can be a lot of these like deep embedded shadows. So I find men are like, well, I don't even know where to go anymore. And you know, and one of the things that I really celebrate about your work, and also, you know, this men's work that we create together, is that even inside men's circles, like a lot of time in men's circles, it's only like head up. They're only dealing with the issues of like the mind, and there isn't even a deeper level of embodiment. Like just this past summer, I had, you know, a man come to one of the men's retreats I was running in Portugal. He's been doing men's work for over 20 years, a big community in Portugal, an amazing, incredible brother. And 2-3 days into the retreat, he's like, I've never done practices like this before. Like, this is brand new to me. And of course, I'm celebrating that he gets to evolve and grow, but I'm also like, even inside of men's circles, there's not the depth of embodied work that is necessary for men to get out of the mind into the heart, into his body, into his healthy balls. You know, I guess it's part of the reason I wrote the book as well. It's like for men to actually have healthy masculinity in their head and their heart and their balls. And it's unfortunate in many ways. And I guess the individuals as ourselves are leading that direction. But I also I really long for more men in leadership and politics to have a healthy embodied life that's just actually knows how to breathe, knows how to last longer. I was just looking up the other day, the practitioner training I'm teaching here. Most men, the average time they last in bed is 5 minutes. What the fuck? And it's unfortunate. I know men who are listening right now are probably like, hey, that's me. So where does someone actually start? Where do they actually begin to, rather than just talk about these ideas, where does that change? Maybe they're in a men's circle and they realize that they want more, or they're, they've read an introductory transformational book, and they're like, okay, I want to actually get into my body. I want to get into tantric sex. I want to get into how to be a healthy embodied man. Where, from what you see, not just come to the retreat, but what's some simple things that they can do in their day-to-day life that can begin to open them up more?
That's a good question. So as I've mentioned before, that meditation is really one of the two main pillars of Tantra, meditation and love. So to cultivating these two pillars are something that anyone can do in their daily life in different ways. There's many different self-love practices. And by self-love, I don't necessarily mean self-pleasure, although that could be part of it, but really loving yourself as a man, loving yourself and who you are. And I teach a beautiful practice called Loving is Receiving. That's on my Instagram. I talk about it. I teach it in my retreats. And there's many other practices to come back to the heart and come back to loving yourself. And then also the meditation piece. And this is not necessarily just sitting in silence, although that's a very important and powerful way to meditate, but active meditation and also working with your emotions. So many men don't realize that premature ejaculation, one of the root causes of that, among a few, are inability to express emotion and repressed emotions and unable to kind of express and release. So these are, learning express and release practices, pillow beating and screaming in cushions. You can learn that at our retreat, or you can also look that up on your own. It's very simple to do, and you can just do that by yourself on your own. And just very simple things, learning how to breathe and circulate your energy, visualize circulating the energy through your body. Because, for example, the ejaculation reflex is also happening because that energy is building in our sex center and has nowhere to go. But doing practices like microcosmic orbit, you can read about it in Mantak Chia's book, in The Multi-Orgasmic Man, or Taoist Secrets of Love, and you learn how to circulate that energy. It doesn't take a lot to learn these practices and to implement them in your daily life. So you don't necessarily have to come to retreat. There's even simple things you can find online, simple things you can find in books. There's a lot of great practices and a lot of great advice also in Aaron's book. And now your book is in audio book form, right? I know I prefer to listen to a book than to read one. So there's a lot of options for men out there. And then if you get inspired to go deeper, then work with me or Aaron or another man who you feel resonance with as a coach, or come to one of our retreats, come to Men's Initiation Journey, come to Tantra Transformation. But that's usually not a first step for people to come to a retreat. And a retreat is not going to solve all your problems. Really daily practice, making small incremental changes or additions to your routine daily is what's going to make the most difference in your life.
Yeah, I definitely want to reiterate that place of daily practice. That's one thing that with the academy I teach with, we really reaffirm that necessity. Because a lot of people want to make change and they want to make shift, and it's who are you waking up every morning, looking in the mirror? What is it you're doing? How are you moving your body? How are your emotions moving? Are you stuck? loving what you do? Are you waking up, especially it's a big piece for men, like a man that's not on purpose, a man that doesn't say, hey, I love this work that I'm doing, it's probably not very good in the bedroom because there's not like a vibrational alignment of how he's showing up in the world in, in clarity to the man he wants to be. And, I want to kind of lead in that direction of, for yourself, like in the work that you do and the leadership that you do, like this place of feeling on purpose, this place of like when you feel like you're on purpose and you feel like you're, really guiding and inspiring and teaching and creating, like how does your beloved respond to that? And I know there's a new beloved in your life. Like how does she
Yes,
feel
yes.
when she knows that you're on purpose?
Well, that just turns any woman on and gets them wet. I mean, a man who's not on purpose, how can they trust that he's really going to be a protector and provider, and maybe he's not going to be on purpose as a father, he's going to like fuck off and not care for the kids or for the family. So it's really showing her that you have integrity, you have dignity, you are like, you care for something, you stand for something as a man, and that you're passionate and you are staying with your passions. You're not staying in a loveless, sexless marriage that's horrible, or in a terrible job that you hate. Like, this is not giving her the impression that you're going to be a great lover or that you're going to be a great father or a great partner or anything. So being on purpose, that's one of the things women look for the most in their man is, are they present and are they on purpose, right? Like all the other stuff is also coming later. Like, is he tall? Does he have a big dick? Does he have a nice car? Like, no, that's all coming like much later. Like, first, is he present? Is he on purpose? Like, already you're not those things. I'm not going to take this guy seriously.
So present and on purpose. Two things, men, if you're listening, take that in.
Being on purpose is showing that you have a healthy third chakra, your healthy solar plexus. The solar plexus is the place that we can expand ourselves to hold all the contradictions in life and to hold the feminine in all her storms, whether that's the external or the internal feminine, right? And it's the place where we find that harmony of opposites, and we find this integration of power and receptivity, or power and vulnerability. So if we're not on purpose there, that's already showing a lack of alignment in our solar plexus. It's already showing that we are not truly powerful men, that we don't have this integration of our receptivity with our strength, with our power.
Yeah, there's a lack of alignment there. So
right.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I'm celebrating you and celebrating the creation we have coming up in Bali at the end of April. Many more I know will be coming up through the years. I'd love to hear like what's on the front for you. Like, where's your leadership as a man in this field? What are you creating? What's coming into your world?
Right. So in Bali, I've got a Mystic Tantra Massage Practitioner training that's starting just in a couple of days. So by the time this podcast is released, probably that training's up and running. And then Tantra Transformation Retreat, which is one of my favorite retreats to teach other than the men's initiation. So I'm offering that in Bali a few times a year, and also in Spain at Hidden Paradise. And, I don't know any other retreats other than these two where in 7 days, the level of transformation, the level of life changing that happens for people in such a short period of time. So I'm really focusing on the retreats and projects that bring the most impact and to bring the most joy, that make me feel the most on purpose, right? So I used to teach many other trainings, and then I've really focused on these core ones that are really the most passionate about at this time. So come and join me for Tantra Transformation, which is for men and for women, for singles and couples, or come for men's initiation, which is for male bodies and male identified beings. So really excited about both. And in April, so we have from April 26th to May 2nd, our men's initiation. And then on with me, you, and Xavier. And then we have on May 5th to 11th, I'm running a Tantra transformation. So it's incredibly powerful to go from a week with men journeying together in our male polarity, and then into a space of a mixed group with women and men together, um, doing tantric meditations and healing and growing and working on ourselves and evolving. It's such a it's even more powerful to do it in that progression, I would say. So yeah, I hope those of you watching will join us, or join me or Aaron around the world. And also, me and you both have a lot of festivals this summer that we're teaching at. So you can find either of us, come talk to us, and we're very approachable. And if you want to work with us, do coaching with us, we're available sometimes as well, even though our schedules are quite limited. But yeah, very excited to share and to bring this masculine embodiment and support for men. But also, I love working with women. I have just as many female clients as male clients, and just as many couples working with me as well. So
yeah, beautiful.
and I know you do too.
Yeah, and I guess to close, like looking at this, I think one of the pieces in these podcast conversations that's so exciting for me is looking at kind of a new paradigm of leadership and looking at a new way of showing up. And in a, you could say, in a minute or two, looking at also kind of a global scale, like what do you feel is going to both birth and create a new level of embodied? I just saw yesterday Apple had its big release of the new VR glasses, and I just feel like we're moving farther and farther away from like human touch, and that's more and more of an anomaly. And I'm curious from your perspective, like looking out into the future in the next 30, 40, 50 years of our lives, like what's going to be the way where like people can stay embodied and healthy sex can happen, and we're not just going to all become addicted to AI.
Right. I think I thought about this a lot lately, actually. And if we look at societies that are more advanced technologically and more reliant on AI or computers or robots and all this, if we could look to like South Korea and Japan, where you have a lot of men addicted to video games, addicted to porn, like a whole generation of men who are saying like, I don't even want a girlfriend. Like I think they're called flower men, or there's some word for it in Japan, where it's like they don't want to deal with the emotionality of a woman or of the complexities of human to human interaction and disagreements and arguments and this and that. So there's a whole like getting lost in this online world, which is, as you're saying, becoming more and more prevalent, right? And even in, for example, in porn, and now there's this like deep fake technology where instead of approaching the woman that you have attraction to, you can now take the face of that woman and without her consent, put it onto a porn star and it would look real. And you're just fucking this woman digitally with no effort. And then not even taking the initiative to even like speak to humans anymore or engage in human interaction. So it's a dark, slippery slope that we have in terms of AI, in terms of technology. So it's really, and how dangerous, for example, porn is, how addictive it is, that hijacks our brain and really sets us up for this new AI VR experience of, wow, you can now be virtually fucking anyone, any model or any supermodel or actress or girl you have a crush on down the street, and now you can be fucking them, and now you don't need to deal with emotions and arguments and the mundanalities of living with someone and having disagreements. And it's really scary. It's really scary, and we can really lose our sense of self. So as much as we can be in contact with the earth, go on hikes, spend time with nature, spend time socializing with human beings, to self-pleasure, perhaps with your eyes closed, instead of watching some images that are highly stimulating and that are impossible to replicate in real life. So it's just to have that awareness, not to get get trapped in that very alluring and addictive situation. And in the future, I'm sure they're going to have not just the VR headset, there's going to be some kind of a robotic vagina also sucking you off while there's also scents coming from the VR headset. All the senses are being aligned. There's literally sex robots now that are with AI intelligence, and you can have conversations with them and they'll never say no to you either. So it's really fucked up, the direction we're headed and what is possible. And it's going to be extremely tempting to fall into that. And then that will be the demise of humanity, basically.
Well, it's a good place to leave it. So if you don't want the demise of humanity, men, come join us so you can learn how to be embodied.
The future of humanity depends on it. Come to men's initiation journey. The future of humanity depends on it. Only you can save humanity. See you in April.
I think that's a perfect tagline. Amazing. Well, I appreciate you, man. I'm very, very grateful for your presence and your friendship and your brotherhood in my life. And I look forward to creating with you in April. And thank you for who you are and how you show up on this planet. It's been a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. Thank you for being a leader of men and sharing and spreading this work and making this more and more available for men to come into their integrity and come into their integration. So thank you.
Thank you, bro. Till next time, thank you all, and have a beautiful day.
All right. See you. Thank you.